Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I have this Steel FS86 and I'm going to be teaching you how to use a strimmer safely. Now all strimmers will run on petrol unless they're an electric one. Now petrol is a very flammable substance and you have to be very careful when putting it into the machine. Now this particular one runs on a petrol and oil mix. Many of them actually don't run on that anymore and they're actually called what's called a full stroke, which has the oil and the petrol separate, but it doesn't really matter. Petrol is still flammable. Anyway, this is quite an old model, but it is still the same as using a newer one, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to do so. Now, the first thing I've already done today is checked for leaks. So that's very important when you're using machines, to check the actual machine is going to work. And one of the most important is if it's leaking. If it starts leaking petrol, you cannot use it because it most likely will explode, and you do not want that. So the next thing we can do is actually look at starting this machine. Now, we've already started this and done a bit of strimming, as you can see behind me, but, you know, I'm going to do it as if it was cold. So, to start a strimmer from if it was cold, the first thing you would do is flick the safety switch here, which is at the moment on stop, to on, and it makes a lovely click sound. The other thing you'll do is that the throttle, you'll have to pull all the way back. This is only for steels. If you've got a different strimmer, then you might not have this. But you don't need to worry about it, it doesn't really matter. Just, you can lock the throttle, and that means that you can have a good amount of throttle for when you're starting. The next thing you can do is put the choke onto choke. Now the choke restricts airflow into the engine and puts more petrol so that it starts a lot richer. But it will eventually stall out unless you put that airflow back into the engine. So it will probably fire once, go rum, and then stop running. Then you're going to flick the choke up and then try and start it, and it should just go and it should be started and going. Once it's started, you can pull this lever back, or the handle like that, and it will flick back to idle, which is why there is an I indicated on the throttle there. So there's an I, and that means that it will flick from start to the I, which means it's idling. Now idling is when the engine isn't revving and it's kind of just sort of sitting at a general speed. And as soon as you pull the throttle, it should rev up and you should hear the engine go. Now if the engine revs up and goes oh like that, that means you'll most likely have to tune the carburetor, but it should rev up. Now this machine, we're going to see if it will work now, but there's some other things they're going to need before starting a strimmer, and they're just over here. We're going to need, with this one, a full body harness, because this is a handlebar unit, which means I have to use a harness with it because it's very heavy. The other thing we're going to also use is earmuffs. Now, I don't have any eye protection at the moment because we're only doing grass, but if I was doing brambles and like big sticks and stuff, then you'd have to be using eye protection to make sure that those brambles don't go into your eyes. Right, once your earmuffs are on, and you can now put on the harness. And then just click up the safety thing. There you go. That's the harness on. Right then, now we can get round to starting the machine. Now, because we're going to be using the throttle lock to start this machine, we've got to make sure that that's not near anybody or anything, because it's going to rev up, obviously. So we're going to put it down like that. Oh, make sure that's standing up straight. Make sure, because this is warm, we don't need the choke. It should just start first time. And if it doesn't, then I'll put on the choke and try it like that. Now, this one doesn't have what's called a primer bulb, because it's so old. Some strimmers don't have primer bulbs, but if yours does have a primer bulb, which is like a little bulb on the bottom of the carburetor, you just need to press it about 5 times and it should fill up with fuel and you'll hear it. Once it's filled up with fuel, we're ready to start. So I like to put my foot on the machine. This isn't recommended, you're really meant to kneel down, but you can stand up if you'd like to and put your foot onto the machine to support it. You grab the pull rope and pull. And there we go, back to idle on the top of the throttle. And then, as you can see, it's got to rev up. And there you go. Now, we can attach a little clip to the strimmer on this little bug. That's on. There you go. And there we go. That's how to use a petrol strimmer.